I lied to you. I lied to you last week. I gave you a great opening yesterday talking about anti-piracy measures in games, and then proceeded to tell you that there was one special one in Sonic, but that was a lie. In fact, what I showcased to you instead was sonic.exe, a creepypasta fan-made game. And I dropped hints along the way for those that were familiar with the entire lore to let them know what was coming. Cartridge. So I hit up my friend Kyle, who got me Sega's flagship character in series, Sonic. And I'm playing a pirated version of the original Sonic the Hedgehog to find out if they did anything to stop you or warn you that your game was stolen. Now, maybe you feel betrayed that I did that I weaseled you into a gameplay, fabricating an entire story to get you there. And if that's how you feel, there's only one thing I can say.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
I did do a lot of research though to get those anti-piracy measures, a lot of interesting ones. So I want to go over a few more that range on a scale, because anti-piracy in video games is really a spectrum of different tactics that were used. And then we'll find out what was actually done for Sonic, because I feel like there should be an answer to that and we should actually know. I think the weirdest one that I found has to be Alan Wake, where if you pirated the game, you just wore an eye patch. That was it. You were reminded plenty of times that you had an illegal copy and to please buy the real one, but nothing was really stifled along the way. So if you were fine having a pirate Alan Wake, I guess you just gamed on. Perhaps that's maybe more of a comment on your moral compass, but if you get the full game at $0, and in fact, you got some added content, I guess, thanks? When looking at anti-piracy measures from game devs on this end of the spectrum, would go very extreme in difficulty. Games like Serious Sam 3 would make an invincible creature that no matter the amount of bullets that you poured into it, no matter what you tried to do as the little sneaky stealer you were, they found a way to make that thing absolutely destroy your fun time as punishment for taking the game. Now, if we move along the anti-piracy spectrum from impossible over here and we get to about this area, that's where the game is impossible, but you can keep playing. It doesn't stop you necessarily right out the gate. Games like Earthbound and Spyro Year of the Dragon, where you could play the game, but there were many impossible objects thrown in your way that were beatable, okay? You could get through them somehow, some way. An example like Spyro is they're yanking out key components to the game to progress the story, but if you somehow got them or were able to progress the story, you could keep going. But once you get to the end of both games, they made it so you could not finish. There was no way possible the game would crash on you. And when you go to try to give it another attempt, because you're right at the apex, the time sunk in, which is extremely more than the average player, all of your save files are gone. It's one of the cheekiest ways to just go like this. Burn! As we shuffle along the spectrum of anti-piracy actions that game devs took, you come to your more very cheeky end of things, where little bugs or interruptions would happen that if you bought the game and played the game would not see. But if you did pirate the game, play it, and come into these interactions, you would basically tell on yourself by asking how to get rid of this bug. Grand Theft Auto 4 had the drunken cameraman where it just constantly swayed and moved and you couldn't really see a whole lot. It's as if the person that decided to program the camera had definitely had many a stone cold IPAs and took the day off because it was a Friday afternoon and said that's good enough to ship. Sims 4, if you had a pirated version, would increasingly give you bad graphics, becoming more and more pixelated as you played. Within minutes, you could barely differentiate anything. You would have thought everything was having woohoo. All of these examples led to pirates going to forums, going to places to ask how to get rid of these bugs, essentially just telling on themselves. Some older games would have a booklet with essentially a password to get you going on the game, to do a little piracy check of their own to find out if you had stolen the game or not. Obviously, if you didn't have the booklet and you did steal the game, you would be stun locked out and that would be the end of your play, but this inherently has some flaws. You could get it secondhand or actually lose your booklet and then you're out of your good time fund even though you honestly paid for it, or maybe secondhandly paid for it. Is secondhand buying something piracy? Even though it seems like the modern day practice today in games is to get pirates to out themselves through some sort of bug that makes them look absolutely stupid, you notice that there isn't a lot of these extreme options, a lot of these creepypasta routes where games get very extreme and very dark and almost very different. And I think the reason for that is because if those happened, you would see people pirate games a lot more. That is bonus content that they don't even have to pay for. Work that is done by people that were paid to do that work. So that doesn't really make sense as an investment. Even in last week's video with Cuphead's example of pirated versions having creepy music showing the devil only came out months after the game was out. And in fact, early copies of the game don't have that problem if they were pirated. People that pirate games don't deserve extra cool, fun content, even if they go out and buy the game afterwards. Just buy the game in the first place. There are plenty of options now through Humble Bundle and Game Pass where you can easily grab games. I get that it's hard out here, but if you want to play a game, it makes sense that you at least fork up the dough for all of the people that went in to make that game. Originally, the concept for this week's video was to trick you again and bamboozle you into another gameplay of creepypasta Sonic, but I decided I'd put in so much research last week into finding all these different measures to make sure I had some good examples to really make it believable that I share them, because they are interesting for the few that are out and around. And Sega is still no exception. Sega has dipped their toe into the anti-piracy gotcha book. My favorite example, Alpha Protocol, and its beautiful sound design. And when it comes to Sega's flagship franchise, Sonic himself in his debut, what did they do to protect that little blue fellow we know today? Nothing. They did absolutely nothing. If you had a pirated copy of the original Sonic, you could just play it. And now you see why maybe it's a little bit more fun to have a fabricated story, and why these creepypasta games that are based off of either ROM hacks or pirated games are enjoyable to watch. Sometimes it's fun to get caught up in the lore when you find out the truth is just, well, pretty mundane. If you'd like to see the Sonic EYX playthrough, please let me know in the comments. If you're having a good time, please subscribe. I'm really trying to hit the road to at least 500 subs. I just want a community tab to get more feedback on things. Right now, I am just throwing things at the wall and figuring out what sticks and what doesn't. So if you had a good time, please do subscribe. I'll see you next week. Man, I'm just so glad this video didn't have a jump scare.